Welcome to Real Estate Real World, where we talk to the movers, shakers, and leaders that are getting it done right now in the real estate industry and beyond. I'm your host, Marguerite Crespillo, and I started this podcast simply dedicated to calling people about what's really happening in this crazy roller coaster ride of real estate. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and stay up to date on the newest stuff by adding yourself to the list at www.realestaterealworld.com. Now, let's dive into the world of real estate. Hey, guess what time it is? Time for Real Estate Real World, and where we get to talk to all the cool people as usual. And today is no exception. I have a great guest who I actually got to finally meet him live and in person at an event that we were at last year. And it was in this huge nightclub. It was crazy. We had so much fun. I'm like, dude, you got to be on my podcast. So I'm excited today to have Isaiah Colton here. Isaiah is an entrepreneur and business coach who got his start in real estate. After starting a successful brokerage, he and his partners started a referral program that did really well. It was so successful that their company was listed as the 308th fastest growing company in the U.S. on the Inc. 500 list. Pretty cool. After that, Isaiah switched gears. He turned his company into a digital marketing and consulting business focused on helping realtors, loan officers, and small business owners grow and scale their businesses to 7 and 8 figures. Now, Isaiah mostly spends his time coaching and buying or partnering with businesses that complement his vision of helping real estate teams and small businesses grow. He's also a proud husband and father with a passion to give back to his local community and help other people reach their goals in life and in their business. Isaiah and his team developed the step-by-step roadmap called the Sales Acceleration Blueprint. This method uses a 360-degree sales and marketing approach along the flywheel methodology to build a business. So thank you, and welcome to Real Estate Real World, Isaiah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited, and congratulations on your achievement with your podcast. And I think you said 35,000 downloads.
Yeah,
35,000.
Really picking up steam. It's been really exciting this last year.
That's amazing.
Of course, it's a huge part to my amazing virtual assistant, Mark, who's done a ton to help promote it. I can't do it all by myself, but it's just funny because I think back, I've been doing this podcast for a while. And when I first started doing it, we used to use freeconferencecall.com.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
If any of you are out there listening and you're listening to some of the old episodes, you're going to be like, that sound was horrible. What was she doing? What was she using? So it's pretty funny because some of the original ones don't sound so great, but we've been going back and redoing some of them, but it's still a lot of fun to see how far we've gone and what we've done to get there. So welcome to you. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I was laughing because when I actually got to meet you live and in person, we talked a couple times, but then I met you at that party. That was a wild party.
I had so much fun at that party, and I needed it. 2023 was a wild year for a lot of people. It was a wild year for me too. And it was just a great time to get away and meet some awesome people, catch up with people that I hadn't seen in a long time, get excited about what's going on with EXP, and just freaking it was such a great time. It was
epic. Probably one of the best parties because the EXP shut down the entire, I can't remember what club it was.
Yeah, it was the whole club.
It was in Caesars or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. And the technology that they were using was in cooling off the room instantly with that instant fog to cool the room down, and just it was just really cool.
It was epic. So anyway, it was fun to meet you there. I'm glad we got to connect, and I'm so excited that you're here today. So I'm also at home, and I now hear my dogs yik-yakking in the back. But that's the real world, right? That's
right. It's real. That's right.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself, your background. You're so young to have done so much that you've accomplished. So I'm curious, where did you grow up? How did you get into this crazy world that you're in?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town, Attica, New York. It's known for the rodeo and the maximum security prison. There's more people in the prison than probably the town. So that's where I grew up.
Oh, yeah, we heard about that. That's like a world famous prison, isn't it?
World famous prison. My grandfather was actually in the riot in the 70s that happened. And when the prisoners took over, he was caught up in the whole thing. Yeah. But anyway, I think that for me, I was the guy that made the B plus students look smart in school. School was a struggle for me, but I was had really good work ethic. I was really great at sports. I learned a ton in sports. Ended up being a three-star athlete in all three sports, or an all-star athlete in all of the sports that I played. Went to go to college playing football. I had a career-ending back injury, and my whole world got rocked, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was going to college. I didn't want to really be a phys ed major because I grew up poor in a really rough environment. And it was really important to me that my kids didn't grow up that way.
Yeah.
And I just didn't see the path I was going that was going to get to me where I wanted to go. And so I started exploring different things. And so I got involved in sales. And so I started selling. I actually did a network marketing company out of my dorm.
Wow.
And I was horrible at the beginning. My mentor was like, this guy can't even talk. He can't even speak. Who is this guy? And I heard him say that. He didn't know I heard him talking to his mentor. But you have different defining moments in life. That for me, and I was in my early 20s then, and that was a defining moment for me because I was in college and like I'm like trying to figure myself out. But just something about what he said fired me up. And so I went out and I immersed myself in every sales book that I could find, public speaking books, and I just went on this journey to prove him wrong, essentially.
Yeah.
And then I ended up hitting a position that was in top 10% position in that network marketing company. I had like over 1,000 distributors in my downline at the age of 24 years old. And so it was a phenomenal experience for me. And then I also experienced shortly after that, by the time I was 26, 27, I lost everything. I made a decision to go with another company, and it was the worst decision ever. The whole company collapsed. And so I lost everything. I think there's a lesson here for anyone listening to this podcast. Before you make a decision to do something else, it's really important that you understand the fundamentals of the business, and you really, before you uproot yourself, just really looking at all angles of it. Because as much as I learned so much from that experience. I thought the grass was greener on the other side. And that's why I'm not here to talk about EXP, but that's why I love the foundation of what EXP has built, because people can feel really comfortable
Yeah.
moving to it. But that's another story. But so I learned that lesson. So by the time I was in my young 20s, I had experienced really amazing success and tremendous failure in a very short period of time. But I had developed a skill set of really being good at inside sales, talking over the phone, and training and coaching people virtually. It's the kind of world that I lived in. So I brought that skill set to other industries, and I installed inside sales teams into the diamond industry, car industry, digital marketing industry. And then I actually ended up falling in love with digital marketing as I was doing this, and just the process of sales and marketing, and fell in love with that. And then I got a phone call. I ended up staying with that company for a long time, the digital marketing company that I was building the inside sales team. And we made a ton of money together. It was a really awesome experience. And then there's a lot of nepotism in that company. And around that time frame, I got a phone call from a realtor that happened to be a client. He's, I want you to come install an inside sales team in my business. And, and so I was like, cool, let's talk. Make a long story short, I ended up not only becoming a minority partner, but I ended up buying 90% of the brokerage. And we built that brokerage up to right around 200 agents. We had a phenomenal run together. And long story, but everything has a season. And long story short, that season came to an end with that opportunity. It was just a phenomenal experience. And I decided to open up a coaching and consulting business. And I've also opened up a digital marketing company to complement the coaching and consulting. And that's where we're at today.
You're like a serial entrepreneur.
That's what they call me. Yeah, they call me a serial entrepreneur. It's a fancy word, but yeah, that's I love taking things, building them, getting them to a certain point, and then I like that I find a really good operator, and I have the operator pretty much take over with my oversight and my vision attached to it. That's what I found my skill set is.
That's amazing. It's funny because I think entrepreneurs are a unique breed, and it seems like it's almost something you get from an early age. Like, I remember I was like 10 years old, and I grew up in Chico, and in
Yeah.
Chico they grow a lot of almonds. people call them almonds and walnuts. And diamond, I think it was blue diamond walnuts or something was there in Chico. And they used to let us kids, they would give us these 50-pound gunny sacks and we could fill them with nuts. And then they would give us $5 for filling these
Yeah.
bags, right? I pretty quickly figured out filling those bags wasn't so fun.
Right.
So
Right.
I hired my little brothers and I would pay them $2.50 to fill the bags. And then I'd
Yeah.
just sell the bags for $5 and make $2.50.
I
So
love it. I
I had
love it.
child slave labor. But I was a child too, but I figured out pretty quickly I got to figure out a different way because I'm not
Yeah.
insane.
Well,
It always
it's that,
fun to
but
do
that what I'm hearing you say is those lessons that you just, it was in your spirit, even at a young age, right? That entrepreneur spirit. I think it's interesting you say that. If I reflect on my journey, I was mowing lawns for people and knocking on doors to get them to mow their lawns at 16 years old. So I think it's probably, I think you're right. It's probably just
Yeah.
like for a lot of people, I think it's just there,
Yeah. It seems
part of
like
the
when you
beginning.
people who've got a history in building businesses and doing things like that, it almost always goes way back to
Yeah.
something they were doing when they were like little kids. And
Yeah.
I did a podcast with Katie DeLosto, and it's one of my favorites. It's out right now. It came out a couple weeks ago. And she said the best salespeople in the world are an 8-year-old who wants something really bad.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. Oh yeah. If you want to
And
learn how to be good at sales, talk to your 7-year-old that wants something.
they're
They're
relentless, right? Like they're not giving up.
relentless.
Like they're finding
Yeah.
every way they possibly can to either make the money they need to
Yeah.
make or get the product or they want that candy bar. They're going to find a way, right? They're relentless.
Yeah.
So the cool thing is that you're now running a business that's really tied into AI a little bit, which I'm pretty ignorant in this arena. Thank goodness I have young virtual assistants who can handle a lot of it. But I would love to
Yeah.
hear a bit more about what you've created and developed because it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I like to start off with a really important conversation that needs to be had in not only our industry, but just in business and life. And I frame it in the old way of doing things versus the new way.
Okay.
And it's doing things in a manual way or doing things using only our own work ethic or our own thinking power. And so versus the new way of doing things or whatever the thing that you're trying to do in today's world, it can almost be done better and smarter and faster using AI and technology. And for a lot of people, it's a shift and it's a different way of thinking. So the most simple analogy I can think of what's happening at such a fast pace right now, and it's so important to pay attention to, is bring it all the way back thousands and thousands of years ago to the caveman days, where you looked at the first caveman or cave woman who invented the spear. Up until that point that the spear was invented, they were having to chase and hunt and kill things with their bare hands. And then all of a sudden somebody invented this thing called a spear, right? And that transformation changed their quality of life, right? And that's a simple example, but then there's so many other examples of different technologies that have come out given the human race or given that tribe or that business, okay, the advantage, right? And so if you look at the early adopters of ideas, it's the people that not are just aware of the information, but the people that are aware it can see a glimpse of the future and then take massive action to figure out how to use that as a competitive advantage. They end up running into these gold rushes. And I had an experience like that with a shift with inside sales. I don't know if you remember when pretty much everything was door knocking, right? And then all of a sudden there was this shift to being able to do things over the phone, right? Using technology in a way to do that. And for me, that's what made me wealthy is learning this skill set combined with technology to do things virtually instead of having to be in person all the time. You go,
You know, yeah,
yeah,
it's so interesting to me because what just popped into my head as you were saying that is when I was 22 years old, I started out as a receptionist for a home savings and
yeah,
loan back in the day. And at that time, they had just gotten the pagers. Now, I've been 30 years in real estate, so hang in with me for a moment. They
yeah,
just got pagers, but they were the cool pagers where you could actually put words and sentences on them instead of just trying to flip the numbers to say
right,
hello. Or and
right,
I'll never forget. they put me in charge of setting up this whole system for all of the loan officers. And the
Wow.
loan officers were complaining. I go, I'm not doing that. And I like remember having almost an epiphany moment thinking, this is amazing. This is going to be a game changer
Yep.
for the industry. Obviously,
Yep.
that was the precursor to cell phones, right? Which and I remember when the AOL discs came out, right?
Yeah.
You're too young for any of that.
I remember working with that. I was at the forefront right when it was transitioning.
It was
Yeah.
crazy, and I remember, like, putting that, like, floppy disk into this, like, new kind of computer thing and listening to
Yep.
the dial-up and thinking, "Man, this is pretty amazing, like, I can really talk to people." So, I agree with you when you say that there's either people who are just, like, all in or they're panicked. Like, people are freaking out right now
Yep.
about AI, and
Yep.
some of it I understand, some of it's a little scary and a little freaky.
Yep.
But I remember when cell phones came out, and I remember when
Yeah.
the
Yes.
MLS actually came out on a DOS computer,
Yeah.
and
Right.
somebody was asking me the other day, "Is real estate easier or harder now?" And I don't it's different. It was easier in some ways because life was so much simpler
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
Now, back then, we had to get in our car, we had to pull up the properties, we had to drive them around, we had to
Yeah.
show like we had all the lists. Now consumers are like, "I found a house, will you write it up?" I'm like, "It's different." But we also have way more documentation,
Sure.
more legal issues, and lots of other things. But I think that there is right now a bit of a disconnect, just like when email came out, just like when texting came out, like agents are like, I'm not using that. But
Yeah.
it's really changing things. And part of it is exciting, but some of it I do think is a little scary on the AI.
Yeah, and I can appreciate the scariness because my head is deep into it. So essentially, my coaching and consulting company, and I also have an AI and digital marketing company that complement each other and run simultaneous to each other. And the whole idea is to help business owners with a roadmap to actually install AI into their every corner of their business so they can get more sales, do it in less time, reduce their cost, have less people on payroll. And when you get past the point of being scared of it and you realize the power of it, it's insane what can happen. Just for my business, between all my businesses, I've already either made or saved about $1 million in the past 6 months because of it. And I can give you some examples so
Yeah,
people
give
can
me
get
some
a
examples
glimpse.
because
A, yeah,
I'm
of
also
how.
I'm
Yeah,
just turned 60 in November, so I'm a
yeah,
little bit of the older
absolutely.
generation. So it's just I don't really feel so scared about it. I think I just feel a little overwhelmed by it. Like I said,
Yeah,
I have young
there's not a lot of good blueprints, but of actually how to like. It is overwhelming because there's literally like I have right now. My team is studying and monitoring over 1,000 different AI tools
That's insane.
that are out there right now. And most of them are there's but if you shrink it down, there's really about 20 that are meaningful. Maybe a little bit more. You could expand it maybe a little bit more that are applicable and meaningful. But a lot of it's duplicated competition. I like to break this conversation down for realtors and team leaders into three different buckets. So the first one is the lead generation conversation. The next one is lead conversion. And then the third one would be like business growth and systems. That's the three big areas. If you simplify it, where you can have a tremendous impact. And I could go on and talk to you about all of them, but just a couple highlights that I can share with you on where I think it's really impactful. There's tools out there where you can use AI to study your competition and what they're doing with paid ads. So if your competition's doing paid ads, you can see what's working really well for them. The AI will bring them in and then help you reuse the similar framework, but redo it in a way that's not copying, but modeling. And I have a whole sheet of AI tools. So what we'll do for your audience is we'll give them the tools that they can check out and use
Perfect.
and look at. But so what we do is we have a rule. We have a rule in all of our businesses, and when we're running real estate ads too, is we don't ever do and start off. We don't ever do anything without using a model because we want to make sure we limit the chances of failure by finding somebody else that's doing something similar And so before we had to do a lot of research. Like when we come up with a new idea, we'd have to do a lot of research to find a model. And now it's super easy because we can literally use these AI tools to look at what everyone else is doing in the industry. So if I want to launch a seller ad around 7 common mistakes that home sellers make, and I don't want to start from scratch, I can use these tools to pull in all of the people that are running similar ads into this tool. And I can look at it and be like, oh, here's what's all these different people are doing. So I can see all of these ideas. I can know what my local competition's doing.
Wow.
So that's a one practical way. There's another tool called Devi, where I can sync Devi up to all of my favorite social media groups. And this is really good for agent attraction. If you're doing any kind of agent attraction as a form of lead generation, if you're involved in the local community Facebook groups, this is a really good tool too, is you can program it to where there's any keywords that are of your specialty, of your interest. You can program it to ping you every time somebody in the Facebook group is mentioning something that might be a conversation you want to be aware of, and step in and have the conversation. So let's say you're an agent attraction and you join all of these private Facebook groups, and somebody says, hey, what do you guys think about EXP in the group? Or somebody's saying, or maybe for me, I'm in coaching and consulting, I could say, hey, who's some of the great coaches out there? So literally all of these conversations, I get fed a list of all of these conversations related to what I want to talk about. And then I step in and able to start having those conversations with those people at the point of interest.
That's crazy. So that one's called Devi?
Devi, yeah. And Devi is also another great tool for, actually, so skipping down to business growth and systems, a lot of people are thinking about it just for lead generation, lead conversion. We've actually put AI in our accounting. So my CFO literally has cut their workload in half because they literally just simply upload our bank accounts to the AI tools that we use. The AI does all of the sifting and sorting into the categories for our accountant. So now our accountant just literally goes in and audits it. And I've reduced my cost of accounting down almost in half.
Oh my gosh, what's the name of that one? I need that one.
Yeah, Devi actually does that as well. So
it's DEVI?
Yeah, Devi.ai.
Yep, Devi.ai. Wow, I'm gonna have to check that one out.
And there's other tools too. I have them all. I'm using so many of them. That's why I have them on the spreadsheet. I'm just going to give you guys the spreadsheet so you can, and they're categorized by what they do. So it's super organized. So you can see it.
So we'll definitely put a link in our show notes where people can access that and get information on all of those different virtual. Which one is your favorite?
Oh boy, that's tough. So I'm going to keep going down the list and I'll get to my favorite if that's cool. Okay. So it's just staying in the category of moving from lead generation to lead conversions. Right now, this is the conversation that I'm bringing to the marketplace that I'm super passionate about, is the lead conversion conversation. Because there's a lot of different ways to generate leads now, right? You can do paid ads, name your company. There's a ton of different companies that you can do lead generation through. One of the problems is to make sure they convert though. And so a lot of people don't know this, but if you had a pyramid, when you do whether you're doing Google pay-per-click, whether you're doing Facebook lead generation, or you're using a platform, a lot of people don't know this, but there's statistically only a maximum about 10%, depending on the lead source, 3 to 10% of them are ready to actually buy or sell now. So then you have all of the other ones that are not ready yet. And so what ends up happening is you have the whole market, everyone chasing after this 3 to 10%, dividing that 3 to 10% amongst however many realtors are in your local market. And so while everyone's paying attention to this 3 to 10%, most businesses are neglecting the 40% that are going to transact in the next 3 to 6 months. And so what we're doing is we've set up a really powerful AI automation tool for people that can do a postcard campaign on autopilot, a text message, email, ringless voicemail, and gifting campaign to a segmented list. And it's all on autopilot. And it's to the point where you could have it send a text message on a designated day to say, happy birthday, Marguerite. So, and it would think that you sent it, but you program it just to send it on the day of the birthday, or you could have it send it a gift or whatever it may be. And then there's another layer to that tool where if you have a whole bunch of leads that are going neglected in your database, this AI tool that I've built with it actually will follow up and have conversations with those leads for 12 months.
Does this tie
So
into Follow Up Boss at all? Are you connected to Follow Up
yeah,
Boss?
it syncs into fall. Yeah, it syncs to Follow Up Boss. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm definitely
Um,
interested in learning more about that
yeah,
one.
and we also, so in the lead conversion category, that the AI texting is probably one of my favorite tools right now. But the whole automated suite, it's just amazing. And my project that I'm spending most of my time on right now is the AI voice assistant. So right now we've built a AI voice assistant to follow up and have voice conversations with our leads, and we're actually using it for agent attraction. We're using it for B2B, our consulting firm, our broker lead generation. We just launched it for buyer sellers. For an example, I have about 10,000 agents in my database. And right now on Saturday, I called 1,000 of them, made 6,000 calls. And I came back in and set 24 appointments with people interested in taking a look at EXP.
That's
Uh,
incredible.
and I'm doing that with my partnership with Lee. Or we have our clients have big lists of old leads they've spent all this money on that are going neglected. It's calling through all of these old leads and reviving them, having human-like conversations. And while the technology is still really new, it takes the hard part with it is you have to be good with scripts and dialogues to program it. You got to really work with a specialist that knows how to, it's like training a human being.
Yeah.
So it's only going to be as good as it's trained. But the power is once it's trained correctly, it never makes the same mistake. It doesn't ask for more money. It doesn't call into work, and it can make calls on Saturday, and you don't have to worry about payroll, right, taxes, or any of those things. So that's my favorite tool right now is the AI voice assistant. I probably spend about 2 hours a day actually working with it to make it smarter and more efficient right now.
So the way again, I think I know maybe like half of 1% of what you're
Yeah.
talking about, but I'm learning more. And I remember hearing Gogo saying something about how she was taking all of her podcasts and videos and all that kind of stuff and somehow feeding it into an AI so that it would then it can create things that sound and talk like her. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes. Yeah. That is a tool. There's a couple different tools out there that do that.
Because I was talking to Mark, my virtual assistant, about that. Because, like I said, I have
Yeah.
150 of these podcasts that I've done, on
Yeah.
top of probably another few hundred video trainings I've done with Tuesday tune-ups and things like that. And trying to figure out how to take those and repurpose them and mix them up a little bit to use more stuff. But what I don't like about some of the AI is you can definitely tell what sounds like AI because it doesn't sound like they use a lot more words and a lot more fluffy words and things like
Yeah.
that. You can see, I can even see it in some of our podcast promos,
Yep.
things like that. It repeats some of the same,
Yep.
like each post almost sounds the same. So we've been trying to figure out how to change that up a little bit.
Yeah. So a little pro tip, and if people go, so I'll give you my website because if you register my newsletter, give people a free ebook and a download to. So if you just go to isaiahcolton.com, which I'll give you the link, and they register a newsletter, you'll get all the free AI tools and an ebook. So we had that problem too. What we did is we put in a prompt. And I'm paraphrasing obviously, but we make sure that we tell it to talk to our audience as if they're communicating at the reading level of a sixth grader. And a lot of people don't know this, but a little copyright hack is if you look at all of the best copywriters in the world, all of the influencers, and you look at their copy, there's an AI tool that you can use to read what grade level they're writing their copy at. They're writing their copy at a seventh and eighth, and somewhere between a sixth grade and eighth grade reading level.
Hmm.
And so what we did is we started telling our AI assistant that we programmed in through our company Run 360 to make sure that it writes all of its sales copy at a sixth to eighth grade reading level. because that's what the pros are doing. People think the fancier the word, it's actually completely opposite. And it's the same thing with emails. If you look at the best performing emails, they're not long emails. They're emails that are like, hey, this is Isaiah. I was just shooting you a quick email because I have a really cool up and coming event that's on the topic of AI and using AI to generate more sales and reduce your cost of operating. And I think that if you just took a quick minute to take a look at it, it's going to intrigue you a lot. And that email will perform like literally get 100 times better or 50 to 100 times better open rate and read rate and click through rate than this fancy, long drawn out email with all of the UPPs in it and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so that's a little bit of a hack, a copywriting hack that a lot of people don't know about.
Because one of my favorite people, influencers on the planet, is Marie Forleo. I'm not sure if you know who that is, but Marie Forleo, she's amazing. And she has a program called the Copy Cure and her writing. And I remember I was in her coaching program back in 2009 or 10.
Nice.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
And she said to learn how to write the way you talk.
Yes.
So that your conversations in an email are just like your conversations. You just said, hey, just catching up with you. I got a cool thing. That's how you would actually talk. You wouldn't say,
that's right.
Good afternoon, Isaiah. This is Marguerite, and I want to speak to you today about it's. And that's how I've learned to write. And I enjoy writing that. The funniest thing was when I wrote a book, I think I told you, called 100 Things I Love About You, about my relationship with my husband. And I'll have to send you a copy. And in the book, when I was working with my editor, I love how when you for me, I like the dot dots. So if you say, I don't know what they call it, there's a name for it, but like when you say, I was thinking about dot, and then you write, I love those. And my editor was freaked out. He goes, you can't do that. That's not how books are written. And I said, that's how my book's going to be written, because that's how I write. And that's how I read.
Yes.
We went back and forth. It was like a knockdown, drag out battle.
I love that.
I ultimately won.
What I love about you, you don't take no for an answer. That's what I love about you. You go get it.
It's my damn book. I wrote. It's my book. So I'm going to write it however I want. And I love that you say that, because it really is. Like, you need to write how people are going to relate and connect.
Yes.
And I think people are not reading like they used to be. And if you don't engage them right away, you're going to lose them. And whether that's in an email or whether that's in a Facebook post or in an actual book, you got to learn how to connect with those people in the first couple seconds, right?
That's right. That's really good. Yeah, I'm writing a book right now, and I'm going through the same thing because it's an unconventional book where it's more like a playbook, where I start off saying, if you're looking to read through a book, learn very little, and go through a bunch of fluff, this is not the book for you. And because the whole thing is where I talk about the strategy, a quick story behind how I came up with the strategy or my personal experience with it. And then I literally give a checklist of how to take action on it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that drives me crazy about most books that I read, I literally have to read 200 pages to get 4 ideas, and everything else in it and then I have to connect all the dots. And I'm like, this is not why I read your book. And so I'm really interested to see how the audience how it's going to be received, because I'm writing it how I would like to consume things, which is a little scary. So like a little scary, because you want to make something that people like. And so this is a very interesting, vulnerable moment for me. We're going to see how the book does.
My book is less than 100 pages, and it's got pictures and it's got places that you can write in. I'm going to send it to you, because you're going to have to fill it out and give it to your wife for Valentine's Day. You're going to score a lot of points if you complete this task in my book. But it's called 100 Things I Love About You, and people can check it out online at thingsIloveaboutyou.com. But the whole book experience, we'll have to have a whole nother conversation about that. The whole book writing experience was an adventure. I won't lie, but I'm ready. I've recovered from it, and I'm ready to write another one. So, but I encourage you to do it. Like, it's an experience. If you haven't, been through it before, it's an experience, but it's so worth it, because it's like a big accomplishment to say you're an author.
Yeah.
One of the 5-page book or a 200-page book. It doesn't matter, but it's a pretty cool experience, and you have a lot to say. So there's a lot of
interesting. It's good. It's been probably I've done a lot of really hard things. I can't believe how hard this one is for me. So I'm relating to what you're talking about. I'm like, why is this, out of everything that I've done in my life, I'm like, this has probably been the most miserable experience I've ever had in my life.
I won't lie. I'll tell you, I had the concept for the story for 10 years. I'd been telling people about it, and everyone's like, you got to write a book. You got to write a book.
Sure.
And I'd written a good part of it. And then I just kept procrastinating and putting it on ice and putting it on hold. And then 2020 came along, COVID year, right?
Yes.
I got diagnosed with breast cancer that year. And I was like,
Oh my
okay,
goodness.
I need to get some stuff off my bucket list. And that was number one on my bucket list. Well, I'm all clear with cancer. So that's all good.
Good for you.
But
wow.
I said, come hell or high water, I'm getting this damn book done. And it was hell and high water. But it really was probably one of the best things I've ever done. And I'm really proud of it. So
I'm excited. I'm gonna check it out. Shoot me a message with the title again so I don't forget. If you don't mind.
I'm gonna send it to you.
Okay.
So you're not gonna have an excuse.
Sweet.
So yeah, when we hang up today, I'll get your address and I'll ship it out to you. So
I love it. I love it. I love
well,
it.
we could probably talk for hours. We could probably need to do 5 more podcasts, but we're out of time for today. And so thank you so much. This was a long-awaited conversation, and I'm glad we finally made it happen.
Yeah, same here. It's been awesome. And I just want to encourage everybody to think about the analogy of the caveman and the spear, and think about all of the just, that's what's happening with AI right now. It's your competitive advantage if you figure out how to use it properly.
Yes, and he's going to send us a link that we'll post in our show notes so you guys can get access to the information and have more in-depth conversations with him about it, because it's a game changer. And if you are ignoring it, or you're poo-pooing it, or you're like, I'm not doing it, you may have to rethink that, because it definitely is a game changer. So thank you so much for being here today, Isaiah.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I can't wait to connect and mastermind with you some more. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everybody for joining us again on Real Estate Real World. As usual, we get to talk to all the cool people, and I'm excited that you're here today. Be sure to follow us on all the social media. Make sure to subscribe to us on your podcast apps. And if you so feel inclined, please shoot us a quick review. It helps us rank up there. So thank you again for joining us on Real Estate Real World, and we'll see you next time. Make it a great day. Thank you for joining us today on Real Estate Real World, where we talk with masters and leaders in the real estate industry and beyond on how we can raise the bar in our industry. Please subscribe over on iTunes, and while you're there, be sure to give us a review. Your reviews encourage us and help others to find our podcast for show notes and hot topics on what's going on right now in our real estate industry. Also, hop on over to www.realestaterealworld.com and add your name to our email to get early advance notice of upcoming podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and go out there and be a part of the elite masterclass and raising the bar on the real estate industry.